Julie here from Copy What I Use for Revision, and in today's video where I actually share ways of balancing homeschooling with working from home, I thought I'd show you a clever little trick on how to combine going for your daily walk with your children and learning a list. Now today's list is going to be a history list, and it's going to show the order of the Tudor kings and queens. Okay, so that's going to be a list of Tudor kings and queens, and I'm going to actually video as I go on my walk with the dog to show you how you can incorporate your daily walk with your children and learning at the same time to make homeschooling not just more fun but easier for you as a parent too if you're trying to juggle lots of things, including working from home. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video now, and then I'm going to actually record the bits of the journey that I'm going to need you then to visualise later on to actually learn the list of Tudor kings and queens. Speak to you shortly. Here's the first landmark. I'm on my walk, and the first landmark you need to remember on the journey is the okay, so that's number one on the list is a pub, and I'll reveal shortly why that is. Number two on the list is a church. So if you look there is a church. Okay, so that's number two on the list. Carry on walking on my walk. Continuing on down the street to my next landmark, which is going to be the park, which is on the right hand side here. Okay, so here's the park. So I want to memorise now this park. You normally do this in your mind, but I just wanted to give you an idea on an actual journey, so it gives you more of an idea how to use this memory trick in your homeschooling. Okay, so that's the park, so that's number 3 crossed off. The next one we're looking for is the bus stop. Number 5 is the village hall, which is there. Okay, you can see that the memorial hall, or we call it the village hall. So that's number 5. I'm just going to take you back to my house. Demonstrate how to use those 6 landmarks of a journey, to use the journey method to remember the history list. Back in a bit. Hi, I've just tried to finish off the video in the garden to keep it congruent with the rest of the video, but unfortunately it's blowing a gale out there. And apologies for the sound on the journey video. I didn't realise how bad the wind was today, because it's a beautiful sunny day, but the wind is quite fierce. But anyway, it was only to give you an idea of how to actually use this method. Because obviously if you've got older children, they'll just be able to visualise it and they won't necessarily have to actually follow the journey. But I just thought it was a good way to show for parents of younger children, if you're homeschooling them, how you can combine taking them out for their daily exercise with them learning as well. Because they can have lots of fun just thinking of different characters and different landmarks and stories to make up to actually learn lists. So what you're actually doing is you're teaching them information and homeschooling them without them even realising it. So anyway, the next part of the process is to count on the list how many people you need to learn. And in this instance, there's 6 kings and queens you need to learn during the Tudor times. And then you attach them then to the 6 landmarks you've chosen. Okay, obviously if you had 10 people to learn on the list, you choose 10 characters and 10 landmarks. But I say for the point of this illustration now, it's going to be 6, okay? So the 6 that I have chosen is the first king is Henry VII. So I've chosen Henry Cooper, the boxer. Now obviously if you've got younger children, they're not going to know who Henry Cooper is. So you can just pick up any, get them to select any character that makes them think of Henry. It could even be Henry the Hoover, it doesn't really matter. My next Henry, because the next one on the list is Henry VIII, I've chosen Henry Ford. And Henry Ford is a good one to use with your children, even if they haven't heard of him, because obviously he was a big pioneer in history, and it's obviously he would be a good one to learn as well. Number 3 then is going to be Edward VI. I'm trying to think from my own memory now, from my own story. Edward VI. And I remember him as Edward Scissorhands. Okay. The next on the list is Jane Grey, Lady Jane Grey, and I remember her as Jane Fonda. Again, your children, if they're young, won't remember Jane Fonda. So if you can just get them to pick another Jane, it could be Auntie Jane, it could be anybody, it doesn't really matter, as long as it symbolises Jane to them. It could be Tarzan, and Jane's Tarzan, it doesn't really matter. Then for the next one then, it's Mary the First, and I've chosen Mary Berry off the Great British Bake Off. And then finally, my last character for Elizabeth I is Elizabeth Hurley. And this is how I attach my characters to the relevant landmarks. But obviously you feel free to make your own up with your children or get them to be imaginative and make their own up. So here goes. The first landmark, if you can remember, was the pub. So I've got to associate now Henry Cooper with a pub. So the way that I do it is to envisage Henry Cooper eating a packet of crisps with 7 fingers. Now, why 7 fingers, you might ask? Well, the reason being, the first one on the list is Henry VII, and I'm far more likely to remember the 7 bit if I do something really random. So I've chosen that he's got 7 fingers and he's trying to do the tricky task of eating crisps with 7 fingers. Okay, so that's my Henry VII, and he's outside the pub. Second landmark is the church, and outside the church I've got Henry Ford, and he's actually polishing up a big silver emblem on the Ford car. And when I look down on the registration plate, it's got a big, huge number 8. So that's Henry Ford actually shining up a silver emblem on his car, and it's got a big, huge number 8 on the registration plate. So that's going to remind me that it's Henry VIII. Our third landmark, as we walk down, was the park. And in the park, we've got Edward Scissorhands, and he's actually chasing 6 children around the park. So that's how I remember the Edward VI bit. Our next landmark was the bus stop, and on the bus stop I've got Jane Fonda being sick into the bin. Now, as you can imagine, somebody being sick is looking pretty ashen and grey. So that's how I remember Jane Grey, because she's being sick in the bin by the bus stop. Then across the road then is the Memorial Hall or the Welfare Hall. And by the Welfare Hall I've got Mary Berry, and she's cooking lots of cakes for the fete. And she's holding up a big placard saying that each cake is £1. So that's how I remember that it's Mary the First from Mary Berry, and her holding up a placard with £1. My final stop then is my gate of my home, and by there I'm greeted by Liz Hurley, the actress, and she's got a big fuzzy ginger wig on. And that's how I remember Elizabeth. I don't need to remember the first bit because obviously our current monarch is Elizabeth II, so there can only ever have been one Elizabeth. And that's basically how I've remembered the list of Tudor kings and queens, which are Henry VII, Henry VIII, Edward VI, Lady Jane Grey, Mary I, and finally Elizabeth I. Now, I'm sure you'd agree it's much, much easier when you take them back into your memory. And by the way, that'll take it into your long-term memory. And each time you remember this story and the characters, you will always remember the list of kings and queens, because it's actually stored now into your child's long-term memory, meaning that once, with a bit of practice here and there, it'll be there forever. Now, how cool would it be if you just use these from a very young age, and by the time they're taking their GCSE, A-levels or degrees, imagine how much knowledge is going to be stored already in their brain, just from attaching a bit of fun and storing into the long-term memory. And again, you can adapt it age appropriate. Okay, I was lucky enough to come across a cool book that actually shares memory tips very similar to the one I shared with you today. And it's called Dr. Chan's GCSE Total Memory Recall System. Now, don't be put off by the GCSE bit, because the thing that frustrates me with this book is, despite the fact that he actually says you can use these memory tricks from the age of 8, he's entitled it with a GCSE, which I don't know why. Because honestly, you can use the memory tricks in this book for any age group, right from 8 right up to 88, because my mum uses them and she's almost 80 and she loves using them to learn long lists of information. So I have to tell you, I'll pop a link at the bottom if you're interested in actually looking at this book. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's absolutely no risk to trying it, and you'll have a lot of fun trying out the various memory techniques. But if you want to give it a try, I just want to tell you that if you click on the link, there is a chance I could get paid an affiliate commission. But rest assured, you won't pay any more whatsoever for the book. It'll cost you exactly the same, because any eligible commissions will be paid direct to me by the product owner.
So if you fancy giving it a try risk-free, because I say there's a 30-day money-back guarantee to help your child with homeschooling, so they'll be homeschooling without them even realising it. And better still, it'll give you some extra time then to allocate to your working from home to help you balance homeschooling and working from home. Then I strongly urge you to give it a try while it's at a super low price. Okay, so that's it for today's video. Hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, be sure to just subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my future videos. And if you just pop a like, it'll mean the world to me. Okay, see you on the next video. Bye for now.